Hey, welcome to the More Life, Less Drama podcast. Do you know there is an interesting and alarming statistic out there that says roughly 3.2 million people die each year because of physical inactivity? Wow, that's a lot of people. And it's estimated that 75% of adults aged 18 to 64 did not meet both the physical activity component and the muscle strengthening component of the guidelines. This proportion was higher in women, 78%, than men with 73%, and that was from the ABS 2022. So I'm wondering, do you fall into the 75% or are you making movement an important part of your day and fall into the 25%? And if you're like me and struggle with consistent movement and exercise, a conversation with someone who specializes in getting you moving is the first right step. Because the truth is, I want to figure it out. I want you to figure it out. I want to move my body more, not for vanity reasons, although, look, that'd be a great side effect, but for reasons about longevity. And longevity that is enjoyable and looks like being able to care for myself, still live life and be healthy and capable all by myself, and most importantly, be pain-free. That's the reason. So speaking with my guest, Kelly Howard, today, a fitness consistency expert, she gave me some great insights into the mindset that will help me, and hopefully you, to start your fitness journey. Her motto of fitness starts in the mind, not the feet, and it's a great place to start and strive for the minimal daily movement so you can be part of that 25%. Enjoy this special episode where I chat with Kelly about mindset, movement, and finding what works for you in your life. Enjoy. Okay, hello Kelly, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
Really, really good. I've been binging your podcast actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's really great. I love it. I love the short snippets of information and some really quality information too. I just listened to the uh the You've Got Great Arms episode, Killer Arms.
Oh, right. Right.
Morning in the car. Yeah, and I'm like thinking to myself, I want someone to say that to me.
Right? Like, isn't that something like and truthfully, like, or completely, that that lady, she was this wasn't that long ago. Let's call it 3 years, but 3 years ago, she was just like, oh, I am just so don't want to do anything. I'm so unmotivated, and all I really want is just to feel a little bit better. And
Mm,
now she's has her Pilates instructor going, whoa, look at you.
yeah, look
So
at those arms. I know because, if anybody is watching this that knows me, it is one of those things that is elusive to me. Like I'm continually showing up for movement and exercise and trying to figure out what works for me. And I just feel I haven't succeeded completely, and I'm getting to the age, and I know I say this on behalf of many women that listen to my podcast, we're getting to the age where things actually hurt when you don't move, hurting moves sometimes,
yes.
but I'm 47 this year, and the less I do, the more in pain I am. And so I know that's something that you're
Mhm.
really great working with people
Yeah.
with. And I've actually got your website open right now. And the the bold text on your website says you're smart, busy, successful, and another week just flew by without working out. Ouch. And I love that because that sort of wraps up so many people because we are smart.
Yeah.
We already know that. Like we've gotten to the point where you know what, we are smart. We know what to do and how to do it and all the rest of it. And we're busy, we've got abundant lives, and we are successful, and we don't prioritize that part of our life enough. Yeah.
Isn't that something? I mean, and it's normal. I
Yeah.
mean, really, if you think about it, it's truly normal. I see it. I've done it. I've seen it across the board. Part of it's probably because women tend to be very giving,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we put
Yes.
everyone and everything else first.
Yes.
And it feels a little guilty, like a little not right. Put ourselves first when it comes to, taking care of ourselves, doing the fitness thing. But
Mm-hmm.
then, just like you just said, there's that point that comes where all of a sudden, if you're not doing it, then it's your body just doesn't want to play well.
No, it doesn't. Like you wake up in the morning, so people listening in, like picture this for yourself, it's like you wake up in the morning, you feel a little bit flat already. And like you get out of bed, like I know I'm getting out of bed, my like feet hurt a little bit more. And I'm like, what's this? Feet hurt? Like,
Where'd that come from?
yeah, it's like limping to the toilet, in the morning. And you're like, what is going on here? Like I used to be able to just bounce out of bed and, didn't do a lot of exercise possibly before, but still was bouncing out of bed, doing all the things. And then you get through the day and yeah, things are stiff, tightening up. For me personally, I've got like aches in my shoulders and my hunched shoulders, like making my day not as enjoyable as it used to. And I know the thing that's going to fix it is actually stretching myself to do and incorporate exercise and stuff like that. So the first question that I want to ask you is, what's one thing that you want people to know that is not talked about enough on this topic? Like, what is the thing?
Oh, I would say the thing is that fitness starts in your head and not your feet.
Oh, yes.
It really does.
Yes.
Like
We're on the same
everyone,
page. Yeah.
right? People will often go, well, okay, this is it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But that jump into it without thinking about it, without understanding why,
Mm.
like, why do we want this? It, when you've got that why and that brain power behind you,
Mm-hmm.
it's just so much easier. And it makes it so much easier to stick to it
Mm-hmm.
than that, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, that most of us have gone through most of our lives.
Yeah. Because, yeah, the truth is the starting, like stopping is easy. The
Yeah.
starting gets harder and harder and harder. And every time I start something, I think into myself, why did I ever stop? Because starting is the hardest thing. So I'm curious, like listening to your podcast and listening to the people that you've worked with in the past, you work with people for long stretches of time. And I love that. I love that you are transparent and you're like, to get to this level, 3 years, this is a 3-year process for this person. This is a 12-month, like one of your podcasts was, is 12 months too long, for this result or something.
Right.
And I'm thinking
Yeah.
to myself, no, but so many people want quick fixes. They want a 12-week plan, they want, 6-week challenges and they think that's going to solve it. But if your theory is that it's mind first before your feet,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can't fix anything like that in, 6
You,
weeks or 12 weeks or
you don't know, but
yeah.
we've been sold this, right? We've been
Yeah.
sold forever that, it's lose 30 pounds in 30 days kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was a time, that like, if you went back to the very beginning of my podcast, so I've been doing the podcast for 3 or 4 years now, I don't know what, but go back to the very beginning. There's probably something in there where I've got like an episode that's like start strong, go all in. And I'm not adverse to that
Mm-hmm.
ever. But I've also come to, working with women for so long, I've come to realize that we're a little different in that when we assimilate and we give ourselves time to assimilate, it sticks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like these challenges where you do them for 30 days, like you said, and then it, and then it's like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next, right? Forget that. Like when you start really assimilating this, then it just becomes part of the life. And then it becomes part of life, it becomes part of a really long, healthy life.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The assimilation of and like the incorporating into your identity and your habits and yeah. So therefore, to get to that point, what do you think people are pushing aside and thinking that's not important? What is it that gets to people to that point?
Oh,
I'm
well,
putting you on the spot here.
okay. In life, we're usually, not always, but usually we're either moving towards something that we want, right? Or running away from something that we don't want.
Yes.
Um, a lot of times we have to get to that running away from something, that pain stage, that whether it's angst or body or mental or whatever, when we
Mm.
hit that pain stage. But it's not always like that. Like so much, so much. I get the opportunity to work with women, and I'm like, wait a second, instead of worrying about, oh my gosh, what's next? Is this as good as it gets? Is it time to throw in the towel? Instead of that, what if we put over here, like, what's the cool stuff that you could be doing?
Mm.
Like, if you've got the body and life you want, what are the cool things that you can be doing? Like, what be amazing? Like,
Yeah.
one of my ladies, so she lives in Southern California. And Southern California, it's like Southern California, it's very great.
Yeah.
La la. And she lives off the beach and has lived there for a long time off the beach in a smaller area. And one day we're on a call together. It's a group call. We're all together. And all of a sudden she just kind of sits up and looks at the whole group, and she went, what am I doing in this condo that I have? I want to live on the beach. And we're all like,
Mm.
okay. And she's like, no, no, no. I want to live on the beach. I want to go roller skate on Venice Beach. And all of a sudden, she just like, you could just hear energy shift. And she went, that's it. I've just been thinking I have to stay healthy and live in this little place. And now I want to be big. I want to grow big. I want to have fun. And
Mm.
she's doing it. So
Yeah.
it's both ways. It works both ways. And I have definitely been the person who has has woken up in all the pain.
Yeah.
Like, I've been that person. And then I've
Yeah.
also been the person who gets to wake up at times and just go, wow, like, look at what's next. This is fun.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that both things work. Um, but it's a whole lot more fun to do the one that just it gives you a big smile.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like finding the thing that's right for you that puts the smile on your face when you do it. Because I think a lot of people, myself included, it's like exercise is hard and it's never meant to be enjoyable. But it's like, actually, that could be a load of rubbish. If it's a load of
Oh
rubbish,
yeah, I was going to
yeah,
say rubbish, but I didn't want to.
yeah, it is.
But
It's rubbish.
it can be, it can be amazing too.
Yeah,
Um, so it
that's the
is
big
a lot of
mindset.
it's that shift. Yeah,
Mm,
that
yeah.
shift.
So tell me, what do you love to do? I sort of have a little bit of a sneak peek into your life because I've heard your podcasts and things, but most people listening to my podcast would never have heard of you before. And so what brings you joy and gets you out and keeping fit and healthy and having
Oh, well, for me, um, first it's outside. Like,
yeah.
I like the gym. I have been a gymish kind of person for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not the thing that makes me happy. It's the thing that makes me strong so I can go do the things that I love. So
Yeah.
outside, and I like to hike. I like to paddle. I'm a whitewater kayaker. I love the
Oh,
whitewater
wow.
kayak. I mean, it's like it is my thing.
Yeah.
Um, I get out on the water anytime I can. I'm a terrible surfer, but
Yeah.
that doesn't stop me from getting out there and trying.
Amazing.
So it's just really like anything I can to get outside and play, cycling.
Yeah.
So all of those things, I love them very much.
Yeah. A few things that you've said on your podcast, and I've felt very aligned to you because I can feel the excitement in your voice when you're talking about beautiful landscapes, picturesque scenery. And I'm like, oh, she's talking my heart because that stuff to me, it's so simple, but seeing a beautiful view for me is so inspiring and makes me feel alive. And so to me, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so I need to incorporate that into my, fitness. It's like, okay, how can I get out? Where can I go hike to see the views that is going to be so worth it to me after a hard slog up a hill somewhere? And to see that
Right,
to me it's like, oh God, that just makes me feel so alive. Like I can't tell you, I don't think people get it. Like I know my husband doesn't get it. Like I stand on
right.
something and I'm like, oh, just this is just, I can't even explain how this makes me feel like a beautiful view or something. But I think you get it. You're like,
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
do. I mean, yeah, like, if you just think about it, like, I could just like it's like a slideshow that goes through my head of all these different places I've seen and things I've done, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I just more please.
Yeah.
It just makes
Yeah.
me feel good, and it's actually all the studies out there. You know this. I mean, all these studies out there about what nature does to your brain.
Mm.
That's, I mean, that's really what we're experiencing,
Yeah.
and it's so important for our bodies and our brains.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, like, pretend I don't know anything. What does it do to your brain?
Okay, so the thing I always love to start this out with, and this has become more knowledgeable or more, well known. But years ago, I used to tell people, do you know that they write descriptions in Europe for people to get out into the woods? And people would be like, what? I'm like, yes, because why do you think that? And it lights up all the parts of our brains that we need lit up. It brings out the hormones that make us happy. It brings out the hormones that calm us down. It removes the cortisol
Mm.
from that's coursing through our bodies, right?
Hmm.
That's like one of the things that I think the pandemic did that was pretty interesting, at least here in the States, is that people suddenly discovered the great outdoors.
Yeah.
And part of it was because they couldn't do anything else, right? They had to get outside to go do things. But they also, once they discovered it, it created this love for it, like this joy, because being outside actually does calm your brain down.
Hmm.
It's almost and can be a meditative state. So,
Yes.
and I am a big believer in meditation. Like I think that bringing yourself into that state of calm
Hmm.
is probably the first place to start with anything.
Yeah.
And when you're outside and you're, out in the great outdoors, it does. It brings that meditative calm back in. It removes the cortisol. It lowers your stress hormones. It increases your serotonin. It just makes everything um, brighter. It actually, and it does make things brighter because there are lots of studies now that show that people who are um, depressed. So let's
Hmm.
say you take somebody who's depressed, they actually see the world in more of a subtle tone, subtle tones. Like
Okay.
they actually see grayer colors.
Wow.
And when those people are taken to the to the woods and start experiencing it, or the beach or whatever, whatever the outdoors is, start experiencing it, they actually start seeing colors that
Mm.
they weren't perceiving before,
Wow.
because all of a sudden the brain is getting, it's getting turned on and excited, and visually is stimulated, and doing that actually helps with the depression. So
Yeah.
it's this like circle of
Wow.
awesomeness.
It is. Yeah. Circle of
that
awesomeness.
that would be a medical term.
Yeah. If not, it should be. It should be. Yeah. I I just know it. Like, so when people say you can make, yeah, it makes sense when depressed people say everything just feels bland and flat. It's like, yeah, because it actually is. Your
Yeah,
perception, but like from your brain's
yeah,
perspective, and that is, you're looking out, everything is duller and dull
yes.
is a bit more depressing, and it doesn't like spark life in you. I was driving, I went down to Burleigh just this morning to meet with somebody, and I was driving up, so there's been just like showers, and there was the brightest rainbow I have ever seen today
Oh
coming back.
wow.
And I was like, I remember I was like driving towards it, and you could see where it was like hitting, earth basically. And I was thinking, oh, that is so bright and vibrant. You can imagine a depressed person might not see those colors, and it's like you're missing out. Like,
Oh, that
this
would
is,
be terrible, right?
yeah, it
Yes.
would be terrible. And so for somebody that's busy, like we've already established that, busy women particularly are, not putting themselves first, and they're stuck inside, mostly doing things for other people first before for themselves. What is the first thing that you say to these people to like just shift their mindset, just that one step, so they can allow to bring in time to create time for themselves to get outside or to do some exercise? What's that thing?
Oh, I guess we could go at it two ways. One way is simply like not to bring in a lot of pain into this, but
Yeah.
what's going to happen if you aren't doing it?
Yeah.
That that is something that at one point in my life I would never have said, because I would have thought it would seem a little bit, I don't know, in your face. But
Yeah.
these days I'm getting in people's faces more,
Yeah. Good.
because I'm meeting too many women who are just waiting,
Mm.
and it's so much easier. I will say this as someone who's, I how old am I? I'm going to turn 64 this year. So as
Okay.
someone at that age, right? Um,
You get
I
the
know the
right to say
difference
this
in
now.
bodies.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You get the
Yeah.
right
Well,
to say this now. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, our bodies don't, they don't pop back as quick as when you're in your 20s, they boom, nothing. 30s, 40s, you start noticing it. But
Hmm.
if you don't start taking action, then it is going to be harder later on. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I can say is it will be harder. So
Yes.
that's one way of looking at it. And then the more mechanical way of looking at it is everyone has time.
Mm-hmm.
I would just absolutely throw down and say, I will bet anyone in the world has 20 minutes in a day
Hmm.
to get out and do. All we call it is minimum daily movement. Like,
Yeah.
start with your MDM, minimum daily movement. What is it?
Yeah.
And, start there. And usually what happens is that once somebody starts moving, a body in motion stays in motion.
Hmm.
If you give yourself 10 minutes, but
Hmm.
allow for 20, all of a sudden your body loves to move.
Yeah.
It's made to move. It's why people who move well often live very long lives.
Hmm.
I mean, we're created to move.
Yeah.
So that it's like two sides of the coin, but one of those two sides has to get somebody going. And if
Yeah.
neither of them get somebody
Yeah.
going, then there's going to be that wake up call.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Something's
get
really
wake
going
up
to have to be
calls.
bad for them to start.
Yeah.
And, I have seen people in my life that they've got to that point, things are bad, and they still don't start. So, you know, then they're the person, I suppose, that is never going to, look after themselves. And yeah, but I see there's a lot of frustration around that person from other people, like trying to support them
Oh
to get
yeah.
them to move. And what would you say to those people, the people that are trying to support the person to move and, get fit?
Oh,
If not, what would you say?
you want the nice Kelly or the other Kelly?
I'm happy with either. With whatever.
The blunt Kelly would say, you know what? Maybe it's not worth you even trying to get them to do something. Sometimes we can't change people, but what we can do is change ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're not that person
Yes.
in 10 years or 20 years and 30 years.
Yeah.
Like, that that is something that's so true. Like, when I have, and I only work with women, so I'll just say, when I'm working with a woman who says, I don't have time right now for this, but when I retire, or when the kids go to college, or when whatever the life change is going to be, then I'll start. And I'll just say, oftentimes I'll be like, okay, you want to take care of everybody now, but if you don't take care of yourself, they're going to be taking care of you.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's perfect. I actually think I said that to somebody recently when I could see them
Yeah.
bashing their head against the wall, trying to help somebody else to help themselves. And this person's just not. And it's like, yeah, well, exactly the same thing that you said. Well, you can take stock of what they're not doing that you think you could possibly do maybe and look after yourself. And so you can set yourself up for success later on in
Right.
life. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean,
Learn from people.
really, and yeah, we can only, in the end,
Yeah.
encourage ourselves to do stuff,
Yes. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
What's the, especially time and is the biggest excuse, is that the biggest excuse that you see is time?
So, time,
Mm-hmm.
don't know what to do,
Okay.
and not ready to do it. Those are the three excuses I see the most.
Yeah.
Um, and the time one, I actually, I actually wrote an entire chapter for a book. It was like one of these books where you contribute to it, and this was a couple of years ago, and I was on a rant. But the whole chapter was how to find I don't remember now. It was 20 minutes in a day, but I think I ended up actually at the end, it was, they found an hour. We can all find it.
Yeah.
Okay. Like
Yeah.
we can all find time.
Mhm.
Not knowing what to do, mm, it's a little bit of a cop out because there's so many people out there who are willing to help, like
Mhm. Mhm.
people like you, right? Like, I don't know how to lose weight or whatever it is, and there's somebody out there that really knows what to do. And then that last piece comes back to exactly what we were just talking about. When
Yeah.
you keep putting things off,
Yeah.
you never get what you need.
It's really that last excuse is I'm not ready yet, that excuse. It's the belief in themselves, right? That
Yeah.
they can't do it, that they're going to fail at it, that they've tried it before and it's not worked, And yeah, I'm all for supporting people because everybody gets to that point. Like we've all thought that we've all had lack of belief in ourselves to show up to do the thing. But, like you said, bringing it right back down to the minimum daily movement that you can do, like deciding on that, because it is a decision at the end of the day for ourselves, and deciding on that and just showing up for that. And yeah, you're going to fail sometimes. Like you're not going to do it every day, most probably. And knowing that success doesn't look like, 30 green boxes. It's like one green box,
Right.
one red box, one green box, two red boxes. It's like
Right.
understanding that and changing people's mindset around what success is really important. Like, yeah, really chunking it down, I think, and building that belief. Anybody that's listening to this, I've already, said to everybody, go in and do my Be Unshakable proof, like build unshakable proof course,
Right.
because it's all about that. It's about what I help people is it's like that change tolerance, like building that tolerance to change. So if you're starting to do 15 minutes of walking every day and you've never done that before, well, it's going to feel different and you're not going to want to do it, to start with. But if you just build it up slowly and then build that belief in yourself that you can then show up, you're like, oh, well, I've done 15 minutes fairly often. Like I've got lots of green ticks on my calendar for this month. And it's like, oh, maybe I can do this, so building that internal belief. Yeah,
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. And then, when you do that, what also happens is your body gets on board too.
It does.
Because,
Yes.
when you think about that, like bodies are made to move. So when you do, it is I'm pretty, yeah, I know for a fact it's a brain game at first. It
Yes.
always is. But
Hmm.
once you can get to that point where all of a sudden your body's like, okay, wait a second. I
Hmm.
think I think we might get to stick with this. I think I can get excited.
Yeah.
What's next? And it just everything gets on board at that point. And it
Yeah.
gets easier and easier and easier.
Yeah.
And then it's what I like to call a cascading effect of good. Because let's say you start moving, you're creating the habit, your body's getting a little bit better at it. All of a sudden, then you start eating a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
know.
natural. If
Yeah.
you eat a little bit better, you sleep better. You
Yeah.
sleep better, then you eat better the next day.
Absolutely.
It's a domino effect.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about a time in your life where your mindset has directly influenced, your life and the result of your life, that you've turned, gone from one to the other. Like, have you got an example of that for us?
So, mindset as far as like when I overcame something in my brain.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I have one. Yeah.
Right.
This is a bit of a story, but
Yeah.
years ago, this goes back probably 15 years or longer, probably 20 years ago. I read this story. It was about this guy who was doing this kayaking trip. And I very specifically said to my partner, I went, wow, I wish I was younger. I would learn how to do that because it
Mhm.
sounded like so much fun, right? So then you fast forward a few years and one thing leads to another. And I actually get to start learning how to whitewater kayak.
Mhm.
But I've got a problem. I'm a terrible swimmer. I'm claustrophobic. So you're in these boats and they're real small, right? And you're kind of stuck in with this skirt holding you in. So I'm
Yeah.
claustrophobic. I can't swim. And, I'm just not very good at it. I just couldn't stop. I just couldn't stop. It was one of those things where I just went, you know what? This is what I'm going to learn. And
Wow.
by gosh, I'm going to learn it no matter what. And I could see the instructor's face. I would show back up every week and he'd be like, oh my God, she's back again.
Just
Oh no, here she is.
my worst student.
He just looked so disappointed. He's like, go send her home.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
But I didn't
Yeah.
stop. I just didn't stop. And it was probably because it's the one thing that was really difficult for me.
Yeah.
And it scared the hell out of me. Like it just scared me. And so I just wouldn't slow down until I got to a point where all of a sudden I became proficient and
Yeah.
then I became good. And then it became just this joy for me. So it was, and it was not a small process. It took me years. It
Okay.
still takes me time. Like there are still times when I'm taken aback by like, oh, whoa, I'm not sure if I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
But that was like, that was probably one of the struggles that was a fun one. And
Yeah.
then a flip side of that is that I woke up one day and probably I was about your age at that time. I woke up and I was in so much pain, I couldn't get out of my bed. Like
Mm.
literally couldn't get out of bed and had to crawl to the bathroom
Yeah.
and have like a come to Kelly moment. And I'm like, you know what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You're not moving the way you should be.
Yeah.
And so I
And
had to
you
go
might
back to
think
the very
yourself.
beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious, like the because most people hear the kayak story and yeah, they see the joy that you're getting out of it now. And we love to just to forget about all the challenges, that people go through to get somewhere. They're like, yeah, but she's good at
Right.
kayaking, she's done all the things.
Right.
But what was the thing, like what was the thought or the belief in yourself that allowed you to keep going back to the lessons? Even though, like you said, even your instructor was like, geez, she's back, like she's really bad at this and she's back.
Go home.
Yeah, because a lot of people would be like, oh my God, it's like I can't, that's embarrassing. I can't go back because I'm not good at something. So what kept you showing up?
That's a great question. Okay, it's probably was two things. One thing was, well, it's probably three things. One thing is, I have a very high tolerance for fear.
Okay.
Um, and when something really scares me, I will do it because I want to, like, I want to overcome that fear. And it just terrified me. Like, it terrified me every time I went. So that was part of it. And the other part of it was simply that I had never found something I couldn't do when it came to
Hi.
physically doing something, right? Like
Yeah.
I could do things
Yeah.
and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So it just like kind of annoyed me, but it was a challenge, right? It was a puzzle.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that puzzle was as much body as brain,
Mm-hmm.
that sport.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to overcome all the brain stuff that was going on and all the fear. So it was probably both of those things. Sometimes you have to get when something's really easy for you,
Yeah.
it's not as interesting.
Yeah, you lose interest for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, you can
yeah,
you can feel it like you. So what I'm hearing is you lean into it. It's like the leaning in. Like you've got the option to lean
yes,
out.
right.
And you're like,
In
no,
fact, I'm
I'm
being
gonna lean in.
encouraged to.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and it is.
yeah,
It's actually exactly that. It's the courage. Like Brene Brown always says, courage precedes um, motivation. And
yes,
it is, you have to have the courage. And I think people underestimate that. People underestimate that just because you're scared of something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Most people are like, oh, I'm
right.
scared of that. I'm not very good at that. I'll just bow out and forget about it. And it's
Yeah,
people like yourself that lean into it and, you go, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. It is a puzzle. I actually love that mindset and that sentence that this is a puzzle that I just need to put together. It's like the mind, the body, we've got to figure it out and then we'll get through it. And yeah, I actually really like that sentence. It's a good sentence for our
yeah.
brains because it's a bit of a
Yeah,
logical,
thanks.
yeah, yeah,
And and it could be there's a lot of other like you don't have to be doing something like that terrifies you either.
yeah,
It could be, you said something earlier, and it's so true. I hear this a lot, is that people try different things. I've tried this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's that point there where all of a sudden, like, I tried intermittent fasting and keto and paleo and I don't know, all the things, whatever they are.
Yeah.
And they didn't work or I didn't stick to them. And so thus that means that I'm not going to stick to something else. But when you take that and you go, wait a second, that doesn't have to be true. And you
Mm-hmm.
lean in and you go for it
Yeah.
and you trust yourself enough to try again. Like I have so many women that were at that precipice.
Yeah.
When I talk to them, they're like, I've tried everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not that person who sticks to it. Like I will I will say that you probably are. You just
Yeah.
have to, find that thing that's gonna get you to lean in
Yeah.
and keep
Absolutely.
going.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you do. You're right. You hear so many people say that. And it is that, again, another cop out, isn't it? It's like, well, I've tried everything. And my question is to everybody all the time. I'm pretty certain you could figure it like, what haven't you tried? And they're like, oh, I've tried everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm willing to bet that you haven't.
Right.
Bet that you haven't tried
And
everything. Yeah.
there's another piece to that too. And it's that even people who are very consistent with their fitness, okay,
Mm-hmm.
even whomever they are, there's a point there where something's going to stop them,
Yeah.
right? Like something stops them. Life gets messy. They're
Yeah.
traveling. They've injured something. They whatever. People are visiting, and it's okay. Like that's one of the biggest things that I just want people to know. It's okay. So what?
Yeah.
It's life, and then you just restart again because
Yeah.
that's the piece of that we're talking about. Because people try to go and do something,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't work, and they stop
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't work instead of going, you know what? Well, that was a giant flop. Let's do it again.
Yes.
And just keep doing it until you get to where you want to be
Mm-hmm.
instead of just rolling over.
Yeah, that's it, just throwing in the towel. Yeah, it's true because there's, yeah, that holding, I call it holding the tension. It's like, you're holding the tension to be like, and you said it before, the trust in yourself to keep showing up, like, and trying new things. It's like, I think that's a really important piece, is that trust that you're going to keep showing up. You're not going to throw in the towel. And we just have to
Yeah.
hold the tension long enough to figure out what's going to work and what's going to stick. Like throw the spaghetti at the wall and go, what's going to
Right.
stick, I'm always saying that. It's like, what sticks? Like I'm always doing this for myself constantly. It's like, just in everyday life, it's like, great, what communication techniques am I going to use? And try out a few things. Oh, I find myself leaning towards this one more. Okay, the other ones aren't sticking, so I'll move on from them and stick with this one, like just so much to try out there. And there is something for everybody. I'm certain of it. We just have to
Oh yeah.
have the trust in ourselves that we're going to find it, that the thing that
Yes.
we are meant to be doing, we're going to find. And I think that's, most people just don't expand their brains far enough to allow that opportunity to come.
And there's a little bit of fear of failing.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that earlier. I mean, if you're if you don't want to look bad or you feel like you've failed before,
Yeah.
then it kind of sticks.
Mm.
And I know I just did a video where I was another river story. Sorry for all y'all who are just like, wait a second, another river story. Sorry, this one's short. So I'm I'm kayaking at a very, very small wave the other day
Mhm.
and flipped over and couldn't didn't roll back up. Like I just didn't roll back up. And I tried, I missed, I tried, I missed, tried, and missed. Finally I just full, which is when you come out of your boat, right?
Uh-huh.
So I came out of my boat and the person I was with was like, wow, you just swam that. Like, that was pathetic. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So I go up and I redid it. And the video turned into a piece about, you know what? When you fail, like this was like any of my friends who had been there would have just like they would have drowned me. They would have been that was so embarrassing. We don't even know you. And so what? You just try again.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You
No.
just do it again
Yes, it's so
and
true.
don't care.
Yeah, we make everything a problem. It's like, this is not a problem. This is my favorite sentence to tell myself when anything like that happens. It's like, this is not a problem. You know, don't make it a problem. You know, yeah, whatever. People might laugh at you. They might, in a few years' time, they might look back on that and go, "Well, what's going on?" You're like, whatever, it's not a problem. And it's the best way to
I
live
love
drama
that.
free, I can tell you, because I'm all about
Yes, I love that.
helping people live drama free, and making things problems is where people create the drama. And so if
That
we
is so true, right?
release it, yeah, laugh at ourselves,
Yeah.
like you must be real like, yeah, that was really bad. Gonna do it
It
again.
was.
Yeah, yeah. Can I just say,
Right.
it's funny that you're kayak, because I've never done it, but it's one of those things that I even just think about it and it just instills fear in me straight away, because I constantly go, oh my God, like if I fall out over, how am I going to get back up? I can't imagine being in that situation. And so, yeah, talking to somebody that actually does this, it's cool. It's very cool. But, like, yeah. And then you just like swim out. I'm like, oh, so you just like swim out when you can't get back
Yeah, I
up.
know, right?
Because again, we make it a problem. It's like, I'm never going to be able to get out of there and I'm going to drown. It's like, no, we're not making it a problem. We just swim out. It's like, okay, we release out of our boat. That's
Yeah,
fine.
I know.
It's
Isn't
a
that funny?
solution.
But you're right. I mean, there is still, there's just all this stuff that happens in heads.
It is. Yeah,
I love your line. This is not a problem.
it's not a problem. Yeah, share it with everybody. Yeah. Yeah, it's really exciting to, talk to you on the other side of the planet right now,
Right.
and so aligned in our thinking, which is nice. So tell
That's,
us,
that is, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So tell my audience, what you love to do and support women with, and hopefully they jump on and check you out like I have done, and see all the great things that you're doing. So tell us, what do you do?
Oh, sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So, where to find me is that
Yes. Yeah.
okay? So yes, easiest place to find me is on my website, which is fitisfreedom.com. We also, and I didn't get a chance to ask you this beforehand, but since we're being audio, here we go.
Yeah.
We have a free ebook. Like I wrote a book this year. It's called
Yeah.
Fit, Active, and Ageless for Life. And it actually hit all of the #1 spots in the Amazon category. And we have it in an electronic version. And if you
Perfect.
would like to pass it on to your clients and your listeners, we have a link for you, because I think it's so important for everybody to get fit and active. Um,
Yes.
and so that is the other way to find me, is through my book. And then, of course, the podcast, which everything I do is called Fit for Freedom or Fit This or Fit That. So you can always find me.
Yeah. Yes. Perfect. No, and I highly recommend it. Like I said, I've been listening along, and listening to your episodes go for about 20, 25 minutes, which is perfect, perfect amount of time in the car, or whatever. And the stories that you tell on your podcast, they just feel really like, I love talking to the ordinary person, like it's not, some convoluted high, thing that doesn't feel like it's in our reach. You really talk into, about the clients that you work with and the results people are getting, and you're really honest about their results and the transformation they've got over an amount of time, which I love. Like, it just feels, like you're talking to the ordinary person, which is, to me, is great. We need more of those types of podcasts out there. And
Thanks. I mean, it's like you and I.
yes,
It's just people like you and I. It's the
yeah,
world.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and, we're all special, and we're all just kind of very similar too.
Yeah. And we all have, like, our right as human beings is to feel great in our bodies. Like, it is possible. And I think, yeah, figuring it out, like, keep showing up and keep trying to find the thing that works for you is really important. I know myself, I've tried lots of things over the years. Like, I've always been quite active. I've not been a person that pushes myself physically. And so I'm sure many people can, relate to that. Um, and that's okay. I've sort of actually resolved that in myself, because you know how we can beat ourselves up about,
Oh
oh, we
yeah.
should be like sweating it out and really feeling exhausted after a workout and doing all that. And it's like, oh, that's something that I've never enjoyed. And I used to think, oh God, there's something wrong with me. I'm not doing it right. But now I'm like, you know what? That's okay. Like, I've got to figure out what I love to do. I love to walk, like I'm a walker. Um, and I'm starting to test out new things that I've tried pickleball recently. Like, it's sort of starting to come
Right.
to Australia, and I'm like, actually, I really like pickleball, because I liked tennis. I've always liked tennis. And I had a back injury. Well, I still have a back injury, but I had surgery on it, 3 years ago. And so it's just trying to figure out now what I can do and what I can't do. And so I tried pickleball. It possibly could be something that sticks. I just need to find a nice little club that's easy to get to. Biggest part, and I'm sure everybody can relate to this, is the getting to where you need to be to do the workout or the exercise or something. That's a big, like, a barrier to success. I know it has been in my life. And so figuring out like your like the geography of, where you need to be to feel and do the jobs, like whether it's at a gym across the road or if you've got to travel 30 minutes to get to a Pilates studio. I think that's one of those things that the barriers to success you can figure out. And so, yeah, I've been figuring out all that sort of stuff myself. Um, the newest thing that I've been thinking about doing is playing golf. Have you ever been a golfer?
Oh, you know, I have not. But one of my clients is a golfer and she just loves it. Like
Yeah.
it is her passion. She loves it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I've been saying to my husband, it's like, okay, we've got to get out and just go golfing. I'm going to be terrible at it. But I think it's actually going to be great for my patience to like teach myself patience. And I need a bit of that sometimes. I'm a bit of like, I want to do it quickly, learn how to do it quickly. But like you, like listening to your story about the kayaking, it is a process. It doesn't take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You're really bad at it to start with, and you kept showing up going, you know what? I'm going to put the puzzle pieces together and figure out what I need to do to become successful at this. Um, yeah, that's the way I'm going to go into my golfing career with.
Nice. And it's true, right? Because if it's super easy, a lot of times it doesn't count in our heads.
That is so true. That is exactly what I was trying to say before. It's like, if it's too easy, it doesn't count. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've got to feel like it's really hard and I've got to be exhausted, and then it counts. But yeah, that's perfect. Yes. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So what would you say
Yeah.
to those people that are, saying that to themselves?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Amazing. Yeah, and really, really good. So, and I see that you take people on adventures and stuff. Like, I love the idea of that. It's a
Oh
shame
yeah.
I'm over in the
Yeah.
US, because, otherwise I'd jump on board.
Oh, oh yeah. Well, you are always welcome.
Yeah.
Everybody's welcome. And yeah, it is a bit of a flight. I realize that. But
Yeah.
we do go a lot of different places, not just in the States, but we haven't been to Australia yet.
Yeah.
Uh, but we do have all these different adventures and they're fun. Like
Yeah.
just it's it's hard and I don't like saying anything's hard, but I do think it gets a little harder to find women who want to go play. And once again, like, even my retreats are all women
Hmm.
because I want that camaraderie that
Yeah.
comes from, a group of women doing things together. And when you find other women who want to go, hike in the mountains or dog sled, we did dog sledding this year, and
Oh, that sounds amazing.
kayaking and
Yeah.
all these different things. It's just fun,
Yeah.
and it also gives you something to train for.
Yeah, that's true. It's good to have like a goal, isn't it? To work
It
towards.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just time goes past and you're like, oh, well, I didn't do it again. Oh, well, But when you do have a goal, like I love working with people with goals.
Oh
It
yeah.
gives you a focus, and it also highlights all the shit that comes up in your mindset.
Right, of course.
Uh, that stops you. So I reckon that's the best thing about goals for me, is like it highlights a lot of the stuff that is, going
Yeah,
around in your mind. But yeah,
that's right.
okay. Yeah. So nice. So what's the next thing that you've got coming up? What sort of
Yeah. What's
event?
my next thing? What is my next thing? You know what? I'm taking a group to the Glacier National Park
Uh,
in this summer, which is a big park in the state, and we're doing a
yeah,
bunch of hiking. And then I'm taking the people to the Smoky Mountains, which is kind of like really that's my heart home.
yeah.
So
I
we're
can
gonna go
hear the
there
way
and
you
play.
speak about it on the
Yeah,
podcast. Oh, she
I
loves this
know.
place. Yeah,
What am I doing?
yeah,
So those are a couple of them, and then of course Costa Rica. I have to always go back to Costa Rica
yeah,
because that's just such a fun country.
yeah.
So those are a couple of them that I have coming up. Yeah.
How exciting! Like that sounds like a really fulfilling career that you've created for yourself.
It is. It really is. And it's like it's so much fun because I know every time, like every one of these retreats, people come and they come because they trust me. They
Hmm.
don't come because they really, 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 really just feel cocky, like they're going to be able to do this. But I'm like, I know you can do it. And I know how to put these together. And
Hmm.
then at the end, we're just like blown away at how amazing everybody is. Our last trip to Costa Rica, I've used the same guide for a very long time.
Yeah.
And so this last trip, it was a little difficult. Okay, it was a little more difficult than somebody the year before had said that was really easy. So I was like, well, let's up the
Well,
ante.
why let that happen again? Yeah,
Toss that gauntlet down. So it was a hard hiking trip. It was a hard trip.
yeah.
And at the end, the owner of the tour company he came in and we were all standing there and he went, "Oh my gosh, you women are goddesses. You are amazing." And everybody's just looking at him. He's like, "I've never had a trip ever this difficult."
Oh,
Our
wow.
guides were going, "Oh my gosh, we're going to do that now."
Yeah.
And everyone aced it. And I mean, we were all 48 to 75.
Wow.
So like not spring chickens.
Yeah.
So it was pretty amazing. And when we walked out, everybody's like, "He was just saying that, right?" And I said, "No, he was not just saying that. You
Yeah.
guys are just like this was amazing." And so it was, and
Yeah.
people did it.
Yeah.
And
Sounds,
there's just
yeah, that sounds to me like fun. Like, yeah, you're ticking all the boxes for life and you're like connecting with people, you're, seeing beautiful places. Like, yeah, actually that sounds just so
yeah,
nice. That sounds divine. I'd really
it
want
is
that.
divine. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's for anybody that lives near the Gold Coast in Brisbane, like where I am, there is hiking groups and stuff. And I've joined them on their Facebook pages and watched people, and I've never actually done it yet. So this is inspiring me because I'm like, okay, why am I holding off? Because it sounds incredible. Yeah, most really challenging at times, like physically challenging, but to have something to show up for, to plan and to work towards, that'd be great. Yeah, I'm gonna look into that more.
Do. And there's something that something I do know, like when we are new to a group, whatever that group is, when we're new to a group, it's no different than when we were 5 years old going to kindergarten. We always had that same like, oh, new group, don't know these people. We have
Yeah,
that same feeling.
yeah,
Everybody does.
mm,
And it's just kind of like showing up. And then usually by the third time you show up, you feel like you're part of the crowd.
yeah,
And so sometimes you have to just show up. And that is what I'm like. I tell my women a lot because I see it a lot when they join the group. First they come on the Zoom and they're, there's no camera,
yes,
no camera. And then maybe there's a camera for a couple seconds and it's off. And then all of a sudden, third or fourth time, all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, you know what? Everybody's just like each other."
yeah,
And suddenly you're part of the crew,
mm,
and same thing happens with the adventures.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think, yeah, and I think that's the biggest gift that we can, like you're giving people, that I'm giving people when we hold these groups of women
yes,
together, that is the
exactly.
biggest gift, because having people show up, and like stepping into their confidence and their belief about themselves is the biggest gift they can give themselves, like to learn that. And I think people like us holding this space for people is so important, because where else do they get it? They just don't get it anywhere else, really.
No, it's hard to find. It's hard to find. It's in a world this big with
Yeah.
this many options. It's hard to find.
Yeah. This has been an incredible conversation. I've really appreciated you coming
Oh,
on.
thank you so much for having me. And
Yeah.
thank you to everybody listening. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah. So everybody that's listening, please, check out the show notes. Go follow Kelly, listen to her podcast. And I know you have a course that you have for your accountability. Is that right? Did I see that right?
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Within the Fit is Freedom,
Yeah.
we have the accountability in the community and the course and
Yeah.
all of the things. And then we also have a smaller one called Super Fit, which
Okay.
is more of a primer. So yeah.
Well, there you go. So if you're somebody that's like, I feel like I've tried everything and nothing is stuck, just know that your thing is still there. Like, it's out there waiting for you to
Yes,
find it.
it is.
And someone like Kelly can actually help you and support you to be accountable to yourself, to show up. So go check all her programs out. I'm sure it's going to be highly valuable for you. And yeah, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks again. I love it.
Thank you, Prue. Truly appreciate it.
Okay, well, have a lovely day. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week on the podcast. Bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of More Life, Less Drama. I love having you here. I hope you found today's topic helpful. Now remember, this podcast is here to support you on your journey to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. If you have any questions, comments, or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, don't hesitate to reach out. Your feedback is invaluable and helps us tailor our content to best serve you. You can connect with us on social media, send us an email, or visit our website to stay updated on upcoming episodes and special announcements. Until next time, remember to prioritise self-care, embrace positivity, and keep striving for more life and less drama. I'll see you on the next episode.